Hi, Puti. Yeah, I stay in town. I stay in town just next to Carlton Center. So whenever you are free and you want us to meet up, you can definitely just let me know. And yeah, I'll have a look at that. The money, time, and people, and budgeting. But in terms of budgeting, I'm not gonna lie, I don't even know where to start in terms of like drawing up a budget for all these things. Do I write down the expenses, the type of things that I would need to buy if ever we needed equipment, or what? Or do I base the budget on how much, if ever, let's say we decide to like charge students, do I need to write down how much we charge students and stuff like that? So um yeah, in terms of budgeting, I'm a bit lost. I'm not gonna lie. I would really like it if you could kindly assist me, because, like I said, this whole thing was just an idea. So, I would really like it if you could also like give me directions in terms of budgeting. But yeah, like I said, whenever you are free, you can let me know. Then we'll meet up and discuss certain areas in which maybe I don't understand quite well.
So, thank you for that question. I think it's a very important question, and it leads up to what we've been talking about when we speak about where to start. And I think there is a huge challenge when it comes to now the matters of the finances and the budgets. So for me, the very first thing that I would like to look at when we are looking at the budget is that it's actually just two different tasks that you're doing. The first one being discovery, and the second one being a game plan. And the clearer we are on how much our dream will cost, the better it will be for us to turn that into a plan. And that is what we are trying to do with the budget. We are trying to convert something that is a dream into a plan, into something that has actions and tasks and things that we can do practically, you know. So we're still talking about the same formula. All finances are about the same formula. It's called the bottom line. Income minus expenses. You're either making a profit or you're making a loss. So it's still generally the same kind of concept, but we're keeping it practical now. So I'm asking you to first do discovery. What is the dream? What is the target? What is the goal? And how does it look like? You must have by now some type of a vision of this thing that you want to build. You see it. So that seeing of it will allow us to now think about what comes first and what can we afford. And this is now you doing your visualization. Discovery is very much about visualization. It's very much about you picturing your business and seeing all the bits and pieces coming together. And then you will you remember the SMART goals. We want to make sure that we then take all this visualization and we start to get specific about it. We want to start now measuring what we are doing. How much do we actually need? Just the simple question of what comes first, that's a way of measuring as well. We are talking about what we can afford here. We are asking ourselves what is realistic for us, and we are talking timelines. Once we talk those 5 key factors, then you know that you are now moving away from seeing a thing as a dream. You are now moving away from just visualization, because you are measuring, because you are now taking stock of everything that needs to be done. And by the way, you will never get it right the first time anyway, so it's okay. You want to crystallize. You want to now take this thing that is a dream, because in a dream there are no timelines. You don't know what time it is. In a dream there's no, but once you say this thing must happen by this time, then it becomes a plan. You are crystallizing it now, because you are now checking for how much the dream will cost you as well. I don't want to make this a very long response, but I wanted to stay a little bit in explaining this by giving this very practical example. I wonder why someone who dreams about that very, very fancy car, like a Rolls Royce, like a super fancy car, why don't you go to the dealership and just sit inside it sometime? Just smell the thing, and it helps your visualization. It helps, because if you can't even do that, if you'll find someone dreaming about having a car, but they are not even planning to go and get a license. So we are talking about converting things that start as a dream. My dream is to have a car to begin with, but I'm moving away from visualization. I'm starting to make sure that I get a license to prepare myself. So now you're starting to take stock of everything. And remember, we don't want to just focus on money. We want to look at time and we want to look at relationships because we are measuring everything. For now, yes, we'll talk about the money part because that's where the question is. But even with that money part, the real benefit of that budget is the action steps. It's the tasks that we'll be able to take. We have to be getting that precise by now, even with the money. That's why I was saying, when it comes to the money part of it, it must be the first thing that you put together for any proposal. Because if you're going to ask anyone to come on board and work with you, you must be able to tell them this is how much it's going to cost. The cost part becomes the whole conversation, not just because money is what money is, but because that quantifies, that measures, that tells what we can afford to do first. It doesn't mean when we budget, we have to look at what we have in our pockets. Then we limit ourselves. It means that we look at what needs to be done. What I don't have now, I'll make a budget of how I'm going to get that because I've visualized and this is where we are going and I have to crystallize it. I hope that makes some type of sense. So let me push it a little bit further. I want to maybe make an example. So let's say I want to start a gaming business. I'm going to make an example with an actual business concept that we had not so long ago. We worked this and we started, it's a nice little project. So I have an entrance. Let's say this is maybe a hall. I want to visualize this thing. Maybe inside the hall, there's a ticket office because it's about games. Maybe I'm putting it up as 2 television sets and that's my station. And then I can have 2 seats on either side. This balances it out for me. Then somebody's playing on the other side, somebody's playing on this side. Maybe that's how we can utilize the space by putting in other stations. This way, I know that I have about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 gamers that can be gaming at any given point in time. I'm just visualizing. I'm not yet asking myself, how much do I have in my pocket? I'm discovering. I'm looking at maybe having a 9th station as having more seats. Maybe we'll have an even bigger screen on this one and we can do tournaments and we can start to do FIFA. Maybe we'll need 2 stations that are like that. We can even do watch-alongs. Nice little concept. I might need an office in this space so that while I'm building this shop and it's running, I'm doing my paperwork. I might need a strong room. We'll store some stuff in there. We might need another office that's like a storeroom as well. When we're dealing with gaming, there might be some cables and things that we need. But maybe we need a staff room as well. Maybe my guys will need to chill somewhere while we are working this thing out. I'm looking at that big space in the middle. Maybe we can put in 2 snooker tables there. Maybe that's not enough. We can monetize by also including some vending machines. Maybe there's a popcorn machine. You know what I mean? This is all just discovery. This is all just visualizing. I don't have money even for the snooker as yet, but that's fine. That's not what it's about. What it's about is making sure that now we come up with a plan of crystallizing this. Now we do the actual research. Now we look at, well, what items are we really talking about here? What do we need in order for this business? Oh, I need some television sets. Or there were also some gaming consoles. Maybe there's some chairs and tables. I saw a snooker table. Who supplies these things in the first place? So where can we get them? Keep it practical, keep it simple. Go do your research. Maybe Macro, I can buy the television sets. How much do they sell these things for at Macro? I don't know. Let's go and see. Or maybe I could get one for 3,000 rands. So how many will I need? I think maybe if I get about 10. It's not that I have this money, but what is the total amount that I need then? I need about 30,000 just for the television sets. That's fine. We are still budgeting. And don't forget to also look at the soft stuff, things like your computer software, even registering the company itself and getting your company logo. You are still doing the discovery. You are still looking at, well, what are the items that I will need in the first place? And remember, visualization will help you with the discovery part. We have to visualize a realistic picture as we are gathering all this data. So we are just collecting information so that when it gets to our game plan, we are now ready to make sure that we can cost the dream. If we can cost the dream, we can see the actions that we need to take. We'll get specific, we'll measure everything, we'll look at what we can afford, we'll keep it realistic, and we'll base it on time. That's your budget. But I want you to remember that Neo doesn't make the first jump. You remember Matrix. You remember that the one did not make the first jump. None of us do. I'll tell you what I mean by that a little later. So now this is the homework. Of course, there's always homework. Now in your homework, you're coming up with your items. You're going to draw it up into a grid like this so that it looks nice and professional. Of course, you're going to give it some nice headings. So this is what it looks like usually for most people. This is now what we are calling the budget. You could call it a projection. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I want to show you some examples, but you'll have your grand total as well. So now let's keep it practical to the question you were asking about. You said you want to train. You said there's venues involved. Again, where? This is now our research. Are we in one province? Is it that? Let's get specific. Where is this hall? How far away is it? What are they going to charge us? Can we get it for free? Can they do it as a donation? Let's go and ask them. The only way to find out is to ask them. How many venues do we need? Then you put in your totals. Do we need catering? You have to picture this thing happening. Some advertising. Maybe I might have to pull off a poster, a flyer here and there. What happens with marketing online as well? There's desks and chairs there. Surely there are people sitting down writing something. Maybe we'll need to get them something to write on. Maybe we'll need some computers, etc. Again, we don't forget soft stuff like registering your company. Where? Maybe I have to go to CIPC. How much is it going to cost me? Only 185. Well, I only need to do that one time to get my company registered. You're just now populating the thing. Try to do all expenses as you can. Try to think about things like accreditation. Certification is always important. That's how you're going to drive the brand part of it now. That's how you're going to make sure that you know, are we giving certificates to our guys? Think about those things, because you must try to think about everything as much as you can. The reason why I'm saying that, it goes back to that point of Neo never makes that first jump. That's very, very important. You need to remember that. You are not trying to create a budget that will be solid. You know how people speak about sticking to the budget. I understand the logic of it. But the reality is you work a budget. You don't necessarily stick to a budget. You work a budget. When you have to make certain changes within the budget, you make certain changes. The reason why I try to move away from that sticking to the budget sometimes is because the implication, not always, but sometimes, the implication is that when I change the budget is when I'm squeezing to fit into, the income is smaller, the expenses are more, so I'm squeezing to fit into. When you are working the budget, sometimes you adjust to buy a better product. Sometimes you adjust to make sure that you accommodate buying something more expensive. That's working a budget. That's understanding your budget and going back to it time and again. But for now, that's your homework. That's the budget that you're coming up with for me. All right? Sorry, I didn't mean for it to be that long, but thank you for listening all the way through to the end. And of course, as always, good luck with your homework. You know there will be homework.